Have you ever wanted to play baseball, but like you didn't want to go through the hassle of ever picking up a bat or putting on a glove? Well, for a brief moment in time, in the 1970s, you could do just that.
Come up with it. Now take another peek at it. You knew that Alexander's a speed burner and Tanner isn't going to waste any time. Okay, here's the second baseman. Jerry Tata, there's a throw. The tag laid out. Yep, they got it. That would have been a challenge for Bench's arm because the way he can run as quickly as he started.
So you might be wondering, who came up with this crazy idea? Who was the madman that thought it was a good idea just to only have a player that ran? Well, I'll tell you who it was. It was the A's owner, Charles O. Finley. You could talk a lot about Charlie Finley, but there's really only a couple things you need to know. 1, he was successful. 2, he wasn't very well liked. He was kind of a money pincher. And 3, and most importantly, he was an innovator. Don't take my word for it. Just listen to him.
In other words, you think they just get locked into old-fashioned ideas and don't want to make a change just for the sake of saying, this is the way it was and this is the way it's going to be?
Unfortunately, Johnny, that's been the trend. And I'm most hopeful that they'll wake up and start making some changes that is going to be good for baseball.
And some of the changes that Charlie Finley wanted were good, like the DH and playing baseball at night. But for every good idea he seemed to have, he also seemed to have a bad idea, like having orange baseballs. And this whole orange baseball thing wasn't just like a side thing that he just sort of wanted. This was something he full-heartedly believed in. So much so that he tricked the umpire crew at an MLB spring training game that they had permission from the league to use the orange baseballs in a game, which they did not. And although baseball may have stopped his crazy orange baseball idea, they couldn't stop his idea for the designated runner. Now, before we go any further, I just want to clarify what I mean by this designated runner. What I mean is that it was a position in which a player on the roster only ran. He only came into the ball game to run. He didn't play in the field. He didn't even hit the ball. He came in with the sole purpose and intent of stealing a base or potentially legging out an extra base to score a run. That was it. He was literally a designated runner. But who could be this designated runner? I mean, obviously it couldn't be somebody that could hit, and it couldn't be somebody that fielded, and it had to be somebody really fast. And it took Finley a long time to find this guy, but eventually a player emerged out from the tropics of Panama by the name of Allan Lewis. The reason why Finley was so interested in Allan Lewis was because the year before he caught attention by stealing 116 bases in the 1966 minor league season. And in doing so, had earned a nickname that I think is pretty cool, the Panamanian Express. Like a train in Panama. He was quick. And thus, with great fanfare, Charles Finley in 1966 announced that he would be ushering a new age of the designated runner with his new little guinea pig, Allan Lewis. And as you can guess, the results were pretty mixed. I mean, he got an opportunity at the start of the year, but to be honest with you, the other players didn't really take too kindly to having, well, not really a baseball player on the team. And after mixed results, he was sent to the minors. Over the next couple of years, he bounced in between, just fluctuating at the end of the season, coming up for a little bit of playing time. It wasn't until an injury in the middle of the 1972 playoffs that Allan Lewis finally got his chance to shine on the biggest stage. Lewis might be a little intimidating having to play in such a big series, but that's not how he reacted. Instead, and I quote, when asked about Johnny Bench, one of the best catchers of all time, Lewis just said, "I ain't afraid of Johnny Bench. He should be worrying about me." In the first game of the 1972 World Series, though, it was Johnny Bench that got the best of Lewis, throwing him out while trying to steal second. Bench also threw out Lewis in Game 2, making Lewis 0 for 2 against Bench. So maybe he shouldn't have been talking trash about a future Hall of Famer. I don't have footage of that one, though. In Game 4, though, Allan Lewis found himself playing a much bigger role. Down by a run in the ninth, following a base hit by Gonzalo Marquez, Allan Lewis was called in, as a potential tying runner. The announcers are quick to bring up his past failures versus Johnny Bench.
But he's tried to go on Johnny Bench so far in this series and hasn't made it.
This time, though, Allan Lewis didn't need to steal, as a base hit by Gene Tenace moved him over to second. Quickly following up that hit, Don Minchard got a base hit of his own, and Allan Lewis rounded third to tie the game at 2-2. And in case you're wondering, the Oakland A's did go on to win this game. So Allan Lewis's run was pretty huge. 2 games later, in a pivotal Game 7, Allan Lewis entered the game once again. Allan Lewis took over for Gene Tenace at second base and would score on a double by Sal Bando to put the Oakland A's up 3-1, and would prove to be the deciding run in the A's 3-2 Game 7 World Series victory. Allan Lewis, the world's first ever designated runner, was a World Series champion. But although Allan Lewis was a World Series champion, he did not get the paycheck like one. Because back then, the players used to divide up the bonuses amongst each other, and they decided that Allan Lewis, since he wasn't really part of the team the whole season, did not deserve a full bonus. So, got kind of cut out of some big money. Allan Lewis kind of went through a similar thing in 1973. He was in the minors for most of the year, and then after a series of mishaps and injuries, he ended up on the postseason roster once again, and in the World Series once again. But this time, he didn't really get the opportunity to have any big moments. But at least he can say he was back-to-back World Series champion. 1973, though, proved to be Allan Lewis's final season. But that's only because Charlie Finley discovered a person who he thought would make the perfect designated runner. A track star.